Let's take a trip back to Krypton to find out how the Elite Science League worked to cover up news about their world falling apart. Can Jor-El find a way to convince the Science League that it's time to evacuate? Of course not, but he's going to try anyway. So let's talk about it in our review of Absolute Superman number 3 from DC Comics. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Absolute Superman number 3. Before we dig into the issue, how about a quick recap? When last we left Kal-El in Absolute Superman number 2, the last son of Krypton escaped capture by the Lazarus Corporation's peacemakers while still handcuffed to Officer Lois Lane. When the pursuing peacemakers opened fire, creating collateral damage in the surrounding villages, Lois got an up-close look at the power of Kal-El's AI suit and miraculous cape of many functions. The issue ended with Lois Lane suddenly becoming a writer because Kal-El smelled good? Okay, sure, let's go with that. And that brings us to the current issue. In Absolute Superman number 3, which is an all-Krypton issue, we begin with a flashback to 6 years ago. Young Kal-El struggled to fit into Kryptonian society's draconian class structure, opting to write reports on his own rather than rely on AI and not excelling in the rigid school curriculum he's been tasked with adhering to. During a campaign trip with his parents, Kal learned his parents approved of his choice to forge his path in life. However, Kal will soon learn that the camping trip had a second purpose. Jor-El was gathering proof of Krypton's imminent destruction. A day or two later, Kal and his classmates embark on a field trip to Kandor, and along the way they witness a horrific train wreck caused by the toxic gases seeping from the ground. Unofficially, Kal could see dying crops, dying wildlife, and anecdotal news of catastrophes happening everywhere. Officially, the Science League kept news of natural catastrophes suppressed, but Kal continues to gather information both personally and from unofficial news sources to paint a picture that Krypton is in a really bad state. When the students finally reach Kandor for the field trip, Kal becomes suspicious when it appears none of the high-ranking Science League clerics with a K, were working that day. Kal wandered through the halls of high wisdom and was surprised to witness his father being dragged away from a meeting with the Science League to make them listen to reason about Krypton's destruction. In other words, Kal's field trip happened to coincide with Jor-El's plea and appearance before the council. Unfortunately, it turned into a bad scene. Kal races home to tell his mother. I guess he skipped out on the field trip. It wasn't clear. You just sort of jumped from one place to the other. In response, Lara gears up with the new supersuit she's been building and heads to the detention center with Kal to free Jor-El by force. During the battle, Kal gains access to the computer system and learns the Science League has been secretly building escape ships for some time. But the ships are only sized large enough to carry the elite class away from Krypton, leaving the worker class and the middle management class and whatever classes they have behind. The issue ends with junior reporter Kal-El, because that's basically what he's turning into, making a big splash on the interwebs on Krypton. Lara and Jor-El showing the big project they've secretly been working on to their son, who they're now very proud of for taking a stand, and a very, very strange, weird, almost discontinuous cliffhanger from what everything else that's been going on in the issue. Hey, do you want to be part of our growing community and get exclusive perks? Become a channel member today. By becoming a member, you'll support a channel you love, which is ours because everybody loves it, but you'll also gain access to special badges, emojis, and members-only content. Click the join button below to become part of our family and help us create more of the content you enjoy. Now let's get back to the review. Alright, that's the issue. Let's talk about impressions and what worked and what didn't before we get to the score. First impressions, you have to give credit to writer Jason Aaron for putting oodles of thought and care into constructing the events surrounding the last days of Krypton. At a high level, the broad brush description of Krypton's outcome is still the same as the Superman mythology you already know if you know anything about Superman, and at this point I don't know how you wouldn't, but Aaron drops in one or two twists that could have significant ramifications for the future. That said, there are systemic weak points that may put readers off, so it's kind of a mixed bag overall. Alright, let's switch gears and talk about the art for a second. Hats off to Rafa Sandoval for envisioning rich, alien landscapes and intense scenes of drama as Krypton's crumbling escalates and becomes more of a dire, urgent situation. There's no Superman action to speak of, and actually there's no Superman at all, so all the visual weight falls to Sandoval to make Krypton and its cast of characters look as interesting as possible. On that count, Sandoval succeeds mightily, so if you're looking for good art, you get it here, even if you're not quite getting what you want out of a Superman comic. Alrighty, that brings us to the positives and the negatives, starting with what's great about Absolute Superman number 3. If you're really into the last days of Krypton, this is the issue for you. Jason Aaron ratchets up all the all-too familiar talking points about government suppression of free speech, resisting established systems to follow your passion, and a planet-wide ecological crisis to make the destruction feel as real and familiar as possible. This feels like a very lived-in, very thoroughly thought-out version of Krypton, maybe more than any version you've seen previously. Plus, there are 2 surprise twists that come at the very end, and we're not going to spoil it here, that suggest Superman's origin story is more different than the first 2 issues let on. Maybe. The beginning starts off as what you would expect, but these 2 little surprises may speak volumes about how this series is finally going to diverge from the Superman you already know. Maybe. Switching over to the negatives and what's not great about Absolute Superman number 3. If you're not a fan of stories focused solely on Krypton before Superman became Superman, you're going to have a really tough time with this issue. Further, Jason Aaron is taking the word decompression to new heights, Marvel-level heights, by writing a series as if he has all the time in the world to get readers on board with the Absolute Man of Steel. It's very decompressed and very focused on everything but Superman, so that's going to be a really tough sell for longtime Superman fans who want action and adventure. Now, wait a minute. You might be thinking, why can't you be gracious? Why can't you give the man time to cook and let the story unfold at the pace it needs to? That would be true, and that would be fair if Jason Aaron is giving you something radically different that you can't predict or haven't seen before. You're still getting a lot of the same things here. Yes, Krypton eventually dies. That's the same as we already know. Yes, we know the powers that be wouldn't listen to Jor-El, costing countless lives due to hubris. This is not new information. And nothing Aaron presents in Absolute Superman substantially changes the original mythology enough to set Absolute Superman apart from his familiar counterpart. Why is Jason Aaron wasting so much time? I don't know, but you could surmise, perhaps, Aaron is setting up a major surprise that upends everything you thought you knew about Superman. Okay, maybe. Whatever the surprise may or may not be, even if there is one, which we don't know, Aaron is risking reader loss by taking too long to get there. You're still setting up the foundation, and you're 3 issues in. That's kind of ridiculous. So final thoughts. What do we think about Absolute Superman number 3? It is an absolute treat for Superman fans who want an entire issue set in Krypton and don't care if Superman shows up or not. So your mileage may vary on that one. Jason Aaron delivers oodles of forethought and details about Krypton's last days, and Rafa Sandoval's art is excellent. However, readers who insist Superman be the focus of a Superman comic will come away unsatisfied with this issue. Maybe Aaron is trying to out-Hickman Jonathan Hickman on Ultimate Spider-Man. Who knows? But it is what it is. Therefore, Absolute Superman number 3 earns a 6 out of 10. It's not a super terrible comic, but it's really unfocused on what it's trying to accomplish, which is present a Superman comic that's different from the original. But what do you think? Am I being too hard on this title? Am I just not seeing the forest for the trees? Leave a thumbs up if you found this review helpful and drop a comment below with which Absolute title is your favorite. I'm betting most people are going to say Absolute Batman, but there's a lot of strange tastes out there, so you never know what's going on. Also, remember to click on the link in the description to read the written review, check out the variant covers and preview pages, and buy this comic to help support the channel. Your support, of course, is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to like and subscribe, of course. So thank you very much for joining, and stay tuned through the outro for more reviews just like this one.